Hey team! All right, so let's get started with our read aloud for today. So a couple of reminders for homework. After our read aloud today, you're going to need to pick up where we left off on page 117 and read until page 131. And you have a quiz coming up in a few days. It's going to be over what happens in pages 108 to 155. That will be assigned in our next lesson. So if you want to read ahead, you can, but you just need to know that that's the pages that your quiz is going to cover. Okay. So today we're going to do our turn and talk. So let's get into it. All right. So just like a reminder, as usual, you can pause the video and do the questions one at a time as we're reading, or you can wait and do them all at the end. It's up to you. So let's go ahead and get started. We're on page 108. So let me pull my book up here, and I have it all ready to go. All right, page 108 down here at the bottom. February 8th, 1992. Dear friend, I have a date for the Sadie Hawkins dance. In case you don't have one of those, it's the dance where the girl asks the boy. In my case, the girl is Mary Elizabeth, and the boy is me. Can you believe it? I think it started when I was helping Mary Elizabeth staple the latest issue of Punk Rocky on Friday before we went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Mary Elizabeth was so nice that day. She said it was the best issue we'd ever had for 2 reasons, and that both of those reasons were mine. First of all, it was in color, and second, it had the poem that I gave Patrick in it. It was a really great issue. I think I'll even think so when I'm older. Craig included some of his color photographs. Sam included some underground news on some fans. Mary Elizabeth wrote an article about the Democratic candidates. Bob included a reprint of a pro-hemp pamphlet. And Patrick made this fake coupon advertising a free blowjob for anyone who buys a Smiley cookie at the Big Boy. Some restrictions apply. There was even a nude photograph from the back of Patrick, if you can believe it. Sam had Craig take the picture. Mary Elizabeth told everyone to keep it a secret that the photograph was Patrick, which everybody did, except for Patrick. All night he kept yelling, "Flaunt it, baby, flaunt it," which is his favorite line from his favorite movie, The Producers. Mary Elizabeth told me she thought that Patrick asked her to put the photograph in the issue so that Brad could have a photograph of him without it being suspicious, but she wouldn't say for sure. Brad bought a copy without looking at it, so maybe she was right. When I went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show that night, Mary Elizabeth was really mad because Craig didn't show up. Nobody knew why, not even Sam. The problem was nobody was there to play Rocky, the muscular robot. I'm not quite sure what he is. After looking around at everybody, Mary Elizabeth turned to me. "Charlie, how many times have you seen the show?" 10. "Do you think you can play Rocky?" "I'm not cut and hunky." "It doesn't matter. Can you play him?" "I guess." "Do you guess or do you know?" "I guess." Good enough. The next thing I know, I'm wearing nothing but slippers and a bathing suit, which somebody had painted gold. I don't know how these things happen to me sometimes. I was very nervous, especially because in the show, Rocky has to touch Janet all over her body, and Sam was playing Janet. Patrick kept making jokes that I would get an erection. I really hoped this didn't happen. Once I got an erection in class and I had to go to the blackboard, it was a terrible time. And when my mind took that experience and added the spotlight and the fact that I was only wearing a bathing suit, I panicked. I almost didn't do the show, but then Sam told me she really wanted me to play Rocky, and I guess that's all I really needed to hear. I won't go into detail about the whole show, but I had the best time I ever had in my whole life. I'm not kidding. I got to pretend that I was singing, and I got to dance around, and I got to wear a feather boa in the grand finale, which, excuse me, I wouldn't have thought anything of because it was part of the show. But Patrick couldn't stop talking about it. Charlie in a feather boa. Charlie in a feather boa. He just couldn't stop laughing. But the best part was the scene with Janet where we had to touch each other. It wasn't the best part because I got to touch Sam and have her touch me. It's the exact opposite. I know that sounds dumb, but it's true. Just before the scene, I thought about Sam, and I thought that if I touched her in that way on stage and I meant it, it would be cheap. And as much as I think I might want to someday touch her like that, I never want it to be cheap. I don't want it to be Rocky and Janet. I want it to be Sam and I want her to mean it back. So we just played. When the show was over, we all bowed together, and there was applause everywhere. Patrick shoved me in front of the rest of the cast to take my own personal bow. I think this is initiation for new cast members. All I could think was how nice it was that everyone applauded for me and how glad I was that nobody in my family was there to see me play Rocky in a feather boa, especially my dad. I did get an erection though, but not until later in the parking lot of Big Boy. Excuse me. That's when Mary Elizabeth asked me to the Sadie Hawkins dance after she said, "You looked really good in your costume." I like girls. I really do, because they can think you look good in a bathing suit even when you don't. The erection made me feel guilty in hindsight, though, but I guess it couldn't be helped. I told my sister about having a date for the dance. She was really distracted. And then I tried to ask her advice about how to treat a girl on a date since I've never had a date before, but she wouldn't answer. She wasn't being mean, she was just staring off into space. I asked her if she was okay, and she said she needed to be alone, so I went up and finished naked lunch. And after I finished, I just laid around in my bed, looking at the ceiling, and I smiled because it was a nice kind of quiet. Love always, Charlie. All right, let's stop there for our first question. And our first question is, based on your reading, how do you think Charlie feels about his date with Mary Elizabeth? If you want to do a question now, pause the video and go ahead and answer. All right, so let's pick up where we left off. We're right here. February 9th, 1992. Dear friend, I have something to say about my last letter. I know that Sam would never ask me to the dance. I know that she would bring Craig, and if not Craig, then Patrick, since Brad's girlfriend Nancy is going with Brad. I think Mary Elizabeth is really smart and pretty person, and I'm glad that she's my first date ever. But after I said yes, and Mary Elizabeth announced it to the whole group, I wanted Sam to be jealous. I know it's wrong to want something like that, but I really did. Sam wasn't jealous, though. To tell you the truth, I don't think she could have been happier about it, which was hard. She even told me how to treat a girl on a date, which was very interesting. She said that with a girl like Mary Elizabeth, you shouldn't tell her she looks pretty. You should tell her how nice her outfit is because her outfit is her choice, whereas her face isn't. She also said that with some girls, you should do things like open car doors and buy flowers. But with Mary Elizabeth, especially since it was the Sadie Hawkins dance, I shouldn't do that. So I asked her what I should do, and she said that I should ask a lot of questions and not mind when Mary Elizabeth doesn't stop talking. I said that didn't sound very democratic, but Sam said she does it all the time with boys. Sam did say sex things were tricky with Mary Elizabeth since she's had boyfriends before and is a lot more experienced than I am. She said that the best thing to do when you don't know what to do during anything sexual, excuse me, is to pay attention to how that person is kissing you and kiss them back the same way. She says that's very sensitive, which I certainly want to be. So I said, "Can you show me?" And she said, "Don't be smart." We talk to each other like that every now and then. It always makes her laugh. After Sam showed me a Zippo lighter trick, I asked her more about Mary Elizabeth. What if I don't want to do anything sexual with her? Just say you're not ready. Does that work? Sometimes. I wanted to ask Sam about the other side of sometimes, but I didn't want to be too personal and I didn't want to know deep down. I wish I could stop being in love with Sam. I really do. Love always, Charlie. February 15th, 1992. Dear friend, I don't feel very well because everything is messy. I did go to the dance, and I did tell Mary Elizabeth how nice her outfit was. I asked her questions, and I let her talk the whole time. I learned a lot about objectification, Native Americans, and the bourgeoisie. But most of all, I learned about Mary Elizabeth. Mary Elizabeth wants to go to Berkeley and get 2 degrees. One is for political science, the other for sociology with a minor concentration in women's studies. Mary Elizabeth hates high school and she wants to explore lesbian relationships. I asked her if she thought girls were pretty and she looked at me like I was stupid and said, "That's not the point." Mary Elizabeth's favorite movie is Red. Her favorite book is an autobiography of a woman who was a character in Red. I can't remember her name. Mary Elizabeth's favorite color is green. Her favorite season is spring. Her favorite ice cream flavor, she said she refuses to eat low-fat yogurt on principle alone, is Cherry Garcia. Her favorite food is pizza, half mushrooms, half green peppers. Mary Elizabeth is a vegetarian and she hates her parents. She's also fluent in Spanish. The only thing she asked me the whole time was whether or not I wanted to kiss her goodnight. When I said I wasn't ready, she said she understood and told me what a great time she had. She said I was the most sensitive boy she'd ever met, which I didn't understand because really all I did was not interrupt her. And then she asked me if I wanted to go out again sometime, which Sam and I hadn't discussed, so I wasn't prepared to answer it. I said yes because I didn't want to do anything wrong, but I don't think I can think of a whole other night's worth of questions. I don't know what to do. How many dates can you go on and still not be ready to kiss? I don't think I'll ever be ready for Mary Elizabeth. I'll have to ask Sam about this. Okay, so we're actually going to pause there for our second question. And I want to know, why isn't Charlie ready to kiss Mary Elizabeth? And there is more than one reason here. There's not like a specific thing that I'm looking for. There are a few different reasons that it could be. So if you're answering the questions as we go ahead and pause the video and answer your question. All right, let's pick up where we left off right here at the top. Incidentally, Sam took Patrick to the dance after Craig said he was too busy. I'm sorry, guys. I guess they had a big fight about it. Finally, Craig said that he didn't want to go to some stupid high school dance since he already graduated. At one point in the dance, Patrick went to the parking lot to get stoned with his guidance counselor, and Mary Elizabeth was requesting that the DJ play some girl bands, which left Sam and me alone. Are you having a good time? Sam didn't answer right away. She just looked kind of sad. Not really. Are you? I don't know. This is my first date, so I don't know what to compare it to. Don't worry, you'll do fine. Really? Want a punch? Sure. With that, Sam left. She really did look sad, and I wished I could have made her feel better, but sometimes I guess you just can't. So I stood alone by the wall and I watched the dance for a while. I would describe it to you, but I think it's the kind of thing where you have to be there or at least know the people. But then again, maybe you knew the same people when you went to your high school dances, if you know what I mean. The one different thing about this particular dance was my sister. She was with her boyfriend, and during a slow song, it looked like they had a huge fight because he stopped looking at her and she rushed off the dance floor to where the bathrooms are. I tried to follow her, but she had too much of a head start. She never came back to the dance, and her boyfriend eventually left. After Mary Elizabeth dropped me off, I went into the house and I found my sister crying in the basement. This was a different kind of crying. It frightened me. I talked very quiet and slow. Are you okay? Leave me alone, Charlie. No, really. What's wrong? You wouldn't understand. I could try. That's a laugh. That's really a laugh. Do you want me to wake up Mom and Dad then? No. Well, maybe they could. Charlie, shut up, okay? Just shut up. That's when she really started crying. I didn't want to make her feel worse, so I turned to leave her alone. And that's when my sister started hugging me. She didn't say anything. She just hugged me tight and wouldn't let go, so I hugged her back. It was weird, too, because I've never hugged my sister. Not when she wasn't forced to, anyway. After a little while, she calmed down a bit and let go. She took a deep breath and brushed off the hair that was sticking to her face. That's when she told me she was pregnant. I would tell you about the rest of the night, but I honestly don't remember much about it. It's all a very sad days. I do know that her boyfriend said it wasn't his baby, but my sister knew it was. And I do know that he broke up with her right there at the dance. My sister hadn't told anybody else about it because she doesn't want it to get around. The only people who know are me, her, and him. I'm not allowed to tell anyone we know. Not anyone. Not ever. I told my sister that after a while she probably couldn't hide it, but she said she wouldn't let it go that far. Since she was 18, she didn't need mom or dad's permission. All she needed was someone to be with her next Saturday at the clinic, and that person was me. It's lucky I got my license now. I said that to make her laugh, but she didn't. Love always, Charlie. All right, we're going to pause there, and we're actually going to do our last two questions together. So the first one is, what would you do if you were Charlie, and why? And what do you think Charlie will do, and what makes you say that? So you can go ahead and stop the video and answer your questions.